In this episode,
what's going on in our brains in that moment is like our house is on fire. And when our house is on fire, we cannot care about global warming. We can't care about being sustainable. We can't care about, these things that we love because we are just so depleted. And, everyone should have the amount of stuff that they want to have in their homes, but they should feel good with it. They should not feel overwhelmed by what it is that they have, because then it becomes a stressor and then it becomes a burden. And with intentional living, it's basically knowing what your non-negotiables are. Can we be transparent? Can we be truthful? Can we be just super respectful of each other, and to say I know that you're not my person forever, but I highly value you as a human being. There's nothing I would want to change about you. If you can take away your ego from that and just be in that, then someone who can't take whatever your honest version is, then they're not your person anyway. So you just filtered them out of your life sooner.
Kim, if you had to give a TED Talk, how would you present yourself to our listeners?
I was thinking about the questions that you sent me beforehand, and I was like, this is the most difficult question, because I have chameleoned myself from one thing to the other multiple times. And I think it would be a candid storyteller and a holistic life designer. But that is not, it doesn't say everything, but it says in a nutshell. Yeah.
And you are originally from Sweden, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now you're in Berlin.
Born in Stockholm, raised in England, pit stop in Italy, and now in Berlin since 16 years.
Wow.
Wow, that's very impressive. I just want to add that during our last conversation, I was very impressed by your experience, and I was looking forward for this podcast to ask all the questions that I was interested in. And welcome to our podcast. We are super happy, me and Maria, super happy to have you here.
Thank you. It's a delight to join you and share whatever it is that you think is interesting for your listeners as well.
Yeah, great. I remember I was going through your website and I found something that you said. Once you said that you chase a dream you never wanted. And I want to ask, can you share a pivotal moment in your self-discovery journey that led you to where you are right now?
So in 2019, I realized that I was on a bit of a hamster wheel, and that wasn't where I expected to be in my life at the time, which was just short of 40. And I was like, here I am chasing interior design and need to do interior design, and this is what I've always known, and this is what I've always done. And then I realized that I needed to create space in my life to reassess that. And firstly, that happened with a friend of mine. I met someone who became a very close friend, and we started delving into starting a business together, which never happened, but it's something very similar to what it is I'm doing now, or have slowly but surely moved into. And it's never just one thing. So it's really multiple factors. And that was one of them. And secondly, in 2018, a very dear friend of mine was the same age as me, got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And so in 2019, he sadly passed away. And what that told me was that we aren't infinite, and our life is so precious. And even if today I'm not living 100% the life that I want, I need to get really clear about what it is I do want, and ask myself a lot of difficult questions and figure out what that is. So start moving the needle towards something that feels more meaningful. And I'm actually like, I'm covered in goosebumps thinking about it, because it's just so important to realize that one day you die and every other day is an opportunity to live. And I didn't really feel like I was living. So, yeah.
Wow.
With what question did you start, like to ask yourself hard questions, if you remember?
I remember that at the time I felt like a burden. I felt stressed. And so for me, the initial factor was, what things in my life are causing me stress? Because if you imagine yourself as a vessel of two channels, and if you do all the good things that you feel good from and you love, and you're filling yourself up and filling yourself up, but at the other side, there's like a plug that's been taken out and it's draining, and the hole for that is much bigger than the hole that's filling you with your energy. So I constantly felt like there's not enough coming in. And so my first thing was, what is causing me the most stress? What is taking up like all the bandwidth here? Because essentially what's going on in our brains in that moment is like our house is on fire. And when our house is on fire, we cannot care about global warming. We can't care about being sustainable. We can't care about, these things that we love, because we are just so depleted. And so for me, that was really an essential question. Like, what are the things in my life that are causing the most stress, from relationships to work things to what kind of clients? Like, am I earning enough money? Why am I not earning enough money? What do I need to earn? How can I change my situation to create more work time? Or also, how can I create space in my life, like right now, so that I just have like 2 hours a day to ruminate? And so I created space in my life just to like go and hang out with a friend for a coffee, to walk around by myself, to spend time with myself. And I also asked myself that question of, what is that stressor? And I slowly but surely started to work off the big stressors, which didn't change overnight, and the small stressors, which I knew were manageable.
Yeah.
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 When you were doing interior design like for 20 years, right? Try to remember. Do you think you were mainly driven by financial benefits of this occupation, or it was kind of your maybe passion or mission at that moment in some way?
Well, I grew up with with creative parents somehow, with different. My dad was a painter and decorator, or had his own business, and so I got to see some really amazing houses as kids. And then coming from a Swedish culture and growing up in the English, I was like, these English houses don't look as nice as the Swedish ones. Like the Swedes have a good aesthetic, like the baseline Swede has good style in the home or what they wear. So I guess that was kind of a natural given. And in the moment where I had to choose what to do with my life, I already knew I wanted to get out of England. So I was like, do I do German? Do I do French? Do I do a language? Like, how do I get out of England? And I had a chat with a tutor, and they said to me, learn your profession and then go and learn the language, which is ultimately what I've done. But at the same time, this natural creativity, I thought that choosing interior design, or I actually studied furniture and product design, that would give me a proper job instead of doing something more creative, which I think it's a fine line when you're naturally good at something and you really enjoy it, but no one teaches you that you can just really love working like with jewelry or doing pottery or painting. You can love that, but it doesn't need to be your profession. And because those two were close, that's why I went into it. But parallel to that, I did a year of traveling when I was 20, 21 for a whole year. And yoga came into my life, and meditation, and doing Thai massage workshops, and like already having a really deep interest in food and what foods we can eat for our health and for different disorders. But when I came back to England after that, I just didn't know where to go with that. I didn't have any mentors. I was just like, is this a job? Like,
Yeah.
I had already moved into such a different path of creativity that, as much as I didn't have any pressure from my parents saying, oh, you must do this, you must finish your degree, I was also a bit of like a rabbit in a headlights going, okay, I'm just going to jump over here because this is the thing that I know about. And I guess that's the beauty of social media these days, really, is that if you are mindful about how you consume, you can be interested in something and see that there's many more jobs than I ever thought, because you don't
Yes.
get a job title with an English degree, or you don't understand
Yeah.
what is the job behind, doing product design, because even then it could be many different things. And I just didn't have the mentorship, really, or the role models at that time to understand, well, if I go something more spiritual, meditation, can I make that work?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Even
Yeah.
right now, it's still kind of tricky to think about connecting your life with the wellness industry because you don't feel safe in this position, or to work in a company or to do something privately, like to open your private business, but still to be stressed. Will people want to try your services or not? And how to choose? Like wellness industry
Mm.
is insanely huge and it's growing constantly. Uh, like we will go exactly right now to that question, but your concept combines and transformative life coaching and near emotional release, interior design, and lifestyle integration. How do these elements interact to support your clients' well-being?
So, what I mentioned before about those stressors in life, I think that for every person, stress is, the kryptonite to your well-being. And so when we look at our bodies as a home for our, physical health, the coaching bit is the home in our minds for the narratives that we tell ourselves, the mindset that we have, the emotions we are more and more disconnected to because we cannot tap into them because we spend our time, connecting here, and we cannot feel into our bodies. And the environment that we spend our time in, so our physical space, society has created consumerism, and we don't overspend, we don't shop because we are super happy and we always love a piece of clothing or a knick-knack or a magazine or whatever it is we're spending our money on. We're consuming it because we are covering up an emotion or covering up a feeling or wanting to numb, give ourselves that dopamine hit for a moment. And essentially all of those things are our homes in different forms. So if we consume with the food that we eat, we know that if it's the wrong stuff, if it's, I don't know, always going to be fast food, our bodies will, after a while, suffer the physical effects of that. And in our homes, it's the same. If, everyone should have the amount of stuff that they want to have in their homes, but they should feel good with it. They should not feel overwhelmed by what it is that they have, because then it becomes a stressor and then it becomes a burden. And for me, when I started this process of also decluttering my own home, which I've done many times over the years, and I feel like now it's the closest to a place where I've had it, where it both visually looks like how I want it, that it feels like a visual representation of me, but it also, when I open the cupboards, they don't make me stressed because I know where everything is, or I know where
Yeah.
90% of the stuff is. And if every time when someone calls you up spontaneously and says, hey, do you want to go for a picnic? Hey, do you want to, can I just come over? And you're like, oh my God, my place is terrible. Like, I can't let anyone come over and see this. Then I don't want that to be my life. I want to be the person who has made time for what's important, but all the space around it is open to spontaneous, beautiful moments that I can create. And it's the same with our emotions. It's literally like the parking fine that you don't pay on time. Everything that you leave and push away will just become bigger and more painful when it's undealt with. So be it your clutter, be it your stuff, be it the food, be it your emotions, anything that you don't deal with will cause stress in the end and will cause anxiety or overwhelm or ADHD or whatever it is because you're ignoring it. And so for me, this is the full package of these things and why they intertwine with each other.
Uh,
Hmm.
Kim, and how to understand, for example, that I should declutter my environment, my space, my home, and are there any like to not to do like any points, like how to understand that?
Um, I am not a naturally tidy person,
Mm-hmm.
but what decluttering your home is an act of self-care and an act of love, essentially. And when your home feels good, when it feels like ah, instead of ah, then you start to treat yourself in a different way as well. You start to treat yourself with a different kind of kindness and love to yourself. It's not a big deal to wash up something by hand instead of sticking it in the dishwasher because you're like, well, I care about this and I care about myself and I care about my space and I want it to be nice. Whereas if all of that energy has leaked out somewhere else, then you don't have the energy for that. And so if you can just be in your space and not feel like I should do this, I need to do this thing needs to be tidied away. If everything is as it is and you are stress free in your home, that's the right amount of stuff. And so over the years, I've made it my rule that I do not want to waste half an hour of my life looking for something when I want to do it. I want to say, let's play a game of cards with my kids, and then I do it because otherwise I'm just never going to play that game of cards with my kids. I'm not going to take the time to do it. So yeah.
Yeah.
And Kim,
Yeah.
I want to ask you one question. I always hear that whenever you do something, it's important to have a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to ask you, when you were doing this transition from interior design to life coaching, did you have a person, a mentor who would guide you to the realm of life coaching?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say it's one mentor. It's
Yeah.
probably been a culmination of different people. And actually, when I started this, I don't think in that moment I was in, even though my outward character is a happy, vivacious person, I don't think the inner me felt truly happy. And I was lacking in confidence at the time and just really needed to get back to myself. So what I did for myself was create a lot of cheerleaders around me and finding people to support me whilst I figured stuff out. And so I have done coaching myself. I've done therapy. I've been very honest and open with all my good friends about what's going on and knowing that I need their support right now. The same goes for my family. And I guess in terms of mentorship, every now and again I don't think I could say who they are, But I have come across people online who I'm like, I like the way they're showing up.
Mm-hmm.
That feels authentic to me. And it's not just one person, it's multiple people who have not been salesy, maybe, who have sold something, but it hasn't felt like they're pushy. And each time that I see something like that, I've asked myself the question, does that resonate with me? Is that who I am? You know, do I want to be the salesy coach who's, I don't know, got some funnels set up or whatever? And actually, I've come to realize that I think I'm a people person, you know, first and foremost. So I think my way of connecting with people is more face to face. It's the live energy, and it's not something static that's sat up somewhere. And maybe that will evolve, and maybe in 2 weeks' time I'm going to say different. But for right now, I think that just seeing that something else is possible, and knowing that, you know, a lot of coaches do come into coaching with already another career behind them.
Yeah.
And that's something I very much admire, which is why I chose the coach that I worked with, which is Nikki Raby, because she's also an actress
Mm-hmm.
and a speaker. And so we just really, and she's English. So I don't know, we had great energy, and she really gave me that support as well that I needed in that moment. And just to see that you can have a multifaceted career. It's not just, you know, it's not, I'm going to be an accountant for my whole life. So,
Yeah, got it.
mm,
Uh, Kim, during our last call, you mentioned the importance of our environment. And I want to ask you regarding our social environment, about the city we live in, because I heard this phrase that we are the average of five people we spend most of the time with. And I
mm-hmm,
want to ask you how to understand that you are actually in a wrong environment.
mm. I think that goes back to, you know, that energy in and energy out that I mentioned previously, because we are essentially this two channeled um, being within us, this vessel. And so when someone is, and you know, you can be in a place and that can be your energy vampire, but a person can also be an energy vampire. And we know that there's people in our lives that we hang out with, and afterwards we're like a little exhausted and kind of tired, and you're like, whew, like what just happened there? Like I don't even know why I'm tired. And the reason is that you are not 100% resonating with that person. You have either a different energy frequency, or you are not allowed to be your fullest expression of yourself, your truest, honest expression of yourself, because that person doesn't have the fine tuning to see that they are being a lot of them and not giving you space. And it's the same with environments, is that, you know, a lot of people say that yellow is a happy color.
Mm-hmm.
But for
Yeah.
me, it's understanding, and this is where my intuition kind of comes from all my design work, and where I realized working with people that it's not just the home, but people just kind of end up adding bits to their homes, and they kind of move in together, and they kind of bring the furniture with them that they already have. And all of a sudden, you've got something that wasn't intentional. And many environments do kind of happen like that. You know, it's not like I'm going to write a book and this is the storyline and I kind of have things mapped out, which it can still take many turns, but you kind of know where you're headed and what it is you want. And with other
Mhm.
environment, if you, for example, have strong associations with particular colors which are negative for you, and you're sat in that environment all day long, you will not feel good. Because it could be that, I don't know, as a kid, your parents always took you to their friend's house, and you kids weren't allowed to do whatever it was. and you were always having to sit in this, avocado green room playing and weren't allowed to behave in a certain way. So for whatever reason, you have a negative connotation to that space and to that color. You will never probably feel comfortable in that colored green colored room, because you have an emotional connection to it. It's like when you have, some people can never go back to drinking tequila because they've had a bad experience with it, because it brings up an emotion, it brings up a visceral response to it. And it's the same with our environment, which is why I don't dictate that yellow is happy and blue is sad, or
Mm-hmm.
for clarity. It's more about, well, how does this make you feel? Like, what is a place where you feel amazing or safe, or that the kind of feeling that you want to create in your home? What is the lifestyle that you want to create there? Because I work mostly with people's homes, but also corporate stuff. But when you ask yourself that, you're like, well, I want to have friends over. I want to have dinners, or do I want to have film evenings, whatever it is? And creating that space is done because you've done the little bit of intentional work that's ahead of it. And a lot of people don't go into interiors like that. They're like, oh, I think I need a reading chair. I need a chair here, or this corner's like empty. Okay, but let's ask the questions first. What does it need to fulfill a function? Does it feel the right? Is it the right
Mm-hmm.
feeling?
Yeah.
And these things can be done with color. They can be done with plants. They can be done with texture. Sometimes it just needs two small table lamps, and you're done. But yeah, I mean, my in Germany in particular, which is no offense to anyone who's German, but you have this Raufasertapete, this like bobbly wallpaper, which
Okay.
is painted white. And,
Yeah.
those little bubbles get a little bit dirty after a few years,
Yeah.
which is like already a bit ick. And then there's a Persian rug, which has been in the family for years, or something
Yes.
old. And then there's a glass table because it's easy to clean. And then there's a leather sofa because it keeps well, but it's very cold. And then there's some sort of Bauhausy lamp because, well, they'll never lose, value in their money. So you've got like cold, cold, cold materials next to each other. And for me, I can't feel cozy and like snuggly in a room like that.
True. True.
Um, and I think that affects you as you are as a person.
Yeah. So redesigning your room can drastically change your life, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I do believe in it. It's like when it's cold, I just can't work. I can't concentrate. I just want to lay under the blanket. Kim, your idea that we can design our lives is super powerful. It's like combining design and our lives so we can design our lives. Could you explain what is intentional living and how it can transform our life? How to feel that I'm living intentionally or not intentionally?
So with intentional living, it's basically knowing what your non-negotiables are. So if if you only have 3 spare hours a day or a week, let's say, for yourself, and you look at your whole month and ask yourself, what do I absolutely need to do to feel like I've had a good month? And so is that being in nature? Is it doing something arty or creative? Is that hanging out with your friends? Is it going for dinner, having people over? And honestly, when you plan it like that, it's not actually that much stuff. All of a sudden, it's just a thing a week, maybe, or you knowing that you want to go to the gym a couple of times. And when you've done that, all the other time is your free time. And so when something comes at you, you're able to respond and not react. Because otherwise, what happens is if you don't plan anything in your life, which I wasn't a planner before, then it was like, hey, do you want to come for this? Do you want to come for that? Shall we go there? Oh, maybe, we should probably plan a holiday. Then it was always reactive. I was having to, make the decisions on the fly. And at the end of the week or the month, I was like, well, I say I'm creative, but I've done nothing creative this month. I say that my well-being and my health is important to me, but I've done nothing to look after myself. And it just reminds me actually to what were those factors in that first year. I also joined a working mums network that year. And every month we set a kind of a goal sheet and how am I going to, what's an act of self-care? What's something fun I'm going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly looked at this sheet and I was like, I don't even know what self-care is. That's how far removed I was from looking after myself or putting myself as a priority, that telling my husband at the time that once a week or once a month, you have to be home at this time because I need some me time. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to do whatever it is I want, because otherwise I will go start craving mad. And so, yeah.
Do you have any approach in intentional dating?
Intentional dating?
Yeah, because now you just mentioned like
Yeah.
following through yourself just in life, but intentional dating,
Yeah. Yeah.
does it exist?
Well, I would say, I've been single now for 2.5 years and I've done a lot of dating. And so I think there's a couple of things which are important. And I've learned over time that most people, if you imagine yourself that you're a product, you're a packet of whatever it is, cornflakes, what it says on the box is what you get inside, right? And most people think they need to advertise themselves differently in order to get something. And they don't advertise strongly enough what is actually really important to them. And when you follow that, when you are clear about, do I really want a relationship now? Is it important to me that whoever I'm dating is also interested in having a relationship now, that they potentially do want children, that they, do 2 or 3 things to further development themselves or whatever it is. I think it's important to know what are the things about a person which are really those non-negotiables, which I need in both the character and the character in which they are, really, so that we're meeting in the same place. If you choose to date just, for friends with benefits or sex or whatever it is, like my first single year, I was like, oh yeah, maybe I want a new relationship. I'm not sure, but I was like, I better figure out what this is. And I call it my quick fick year, which means quick fuck, because quite honestly,
Yeah.
after being in a relationship for 14 years,
Yes.
my 40 whatever I was 40-year-old self was not the same version as my N20 self, and I was like, I do not know what's out there. I don't know what I want. I think at some point in the future I want a relationship, but right now I need validation, and that's enough for me. I need to have a good time. I need to date a ton load of people just to figure out what kind of man is it I want. And maybe that's a phase you need to go to. But I realized that that was not enough after a while. I needed something deeper, something
Connection.
more, more with more connection. Exactly. And I have met the most lovely people whilst dating. But I've also realized that this feeling, which was missing for so long for me, that has come back. And now I understand, when when you meet someone literally on the same wavelength, you feel it like viscerally, like this is something more than just friendship. Whereas you can really, really love how someone is in their person, but the feeling is not there. And so I had this experience like at the end of last year where I had to ask myself, what is it that I really want or need right now? And I think in the end, you need to understand what's most important to me right now. Is it
Mhm.
enough? And am I
Mhm.
am I still in this bubble of what this is? Can we be transparent? Can we be truthful? Can we like be just super respectful of each other, and to say like, I know that you're not my person forever, but I highly value you as a human being. You know, there's nothing I would want to change about you, but this is just simply not it. And I think when you're in your 20s, you so desperately want a relationship that you're
Yeah.
willing to like your brain takes over and goes, oh, but you could be this and you could be the power couple, and imagine the life that you're going to have, and it's going to be
Oh,
so amazing. And oh my
stop
god,
quoting me.
yeah.
It's about
But in the end, it's about your heart and allowing your heart to let go. And so right now, I mean, for me personally, I don't know, is one person enough? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if I don't want a polyamorous thing right now. I would like to find a person. But I think every partner should, if you feel that someone is able to grow with you, if they are the quality of human that at the end of the day wants the best for you, where you do not question yourself when you're writing. You know, when you have that quick, like when you want to write to someone, you're like, oh my god, is he going to think I'm like to this or to that, or oh, maybe he's going to think I like him too much, oh maybe blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
so for me, I'm like, this is this is what I naturally feel like I want to do right now, to say I really care about you, or you know, like yesterday was great, or I really want to see you again tomorrow, are you free? If you can take away your ego from that and just be in that, then someone who can't take whatever your honest version is, then they're not your person anyway. So you just filtered them out of your life sooner. And that's hard when you really would like to have a relationship, because you want a relationship maybe more than you want to be honest with yourself.
That's very beautiful what you're saying, like everything. Yeah. Like I think I just believe that everyone has to hear that who's desperate. I think like we all go through this period of being desperate to have a relationship, and as long as you just leave this thought separately from you and you just live your life alone, like because I think it's the only thing in our life that we cannot plan, and that's why we are so desperate, right? We can plan our
Yeah,
future, university. We can plan kids, not always, but sometimes to have a dog or not,
yeah,
to move. But to find your person, we cannot plan it.
no, exactly. But I think, again, like if you know what it is you want, then the world does often conspire to give you exactly what it is you want. But it's like it's like with me, whilst I'm giving the universe mixed messages about anything, like,
Hmm.
oh, look, I need some more validation. Oh, I'm texting with those guys that I was seeing last year or 2 years ago because they showed up in my world again and they're testing me. And I'm like, oh, I'm flattered. Oh, maybe we should meet up. And I'm like, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, I really want to find a meaningful relationship. And the universe is like, I'm not going to send you someone now because you're still hanging out with those guys. And that's exactly what I did like last year when I was dating one guy for, I don't know, 6-ish months or something, or we were seeing each other. And like chemistry wise intellectually, it just didn't click enough. But very warm-hearted, caring, beautiful soul. But until I let go of that, then I could, like, the world did not send me anything else. And the minute I let go, like 2 days later, 2 other people showed up in my life, who were another step towards getting closer to what it is I'm looking for.
Yeah, yeah. I remember my previous relationship lasted 2 years, and sadly it ended. And I was working with a therapist regarding this to understand what I was feeling and why it actually ended. And my therapist, she asked me a very valid question. She asked me when I was entering this relationship, was I looking for a partner or was I looking for a relationship? And I realized that yes, I was looking for a relationship, and that's why it ended
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. Mm. And how did you feel about realizing that insight?
It was like a very life changing moment for me. I was like, wow, that's what I should looking for.
Yeah,
Partner, like a person, like a to understand who I actually want to be with.
yeah,
Who is this person is doing, like what are the values, and if it's overlap with my
yeah,
values.
yeah. And also not only the values, but really like how do those values like actually look in real life? If you say family is important to me, well, how exactly does family is important to me look for you, and how does it look for your partner? Because what that means for both of you is different and you have different expectations. So for your partner, family is important means I want to spend every weekend with them. You, family is important to
Mhm.
you means something different. And so I think that's also something where you need to meet, and even early on, like, get into those conversations about it, which are awkward, but later on down the line, when you said, well, you told me family is important to you too, and you're like, yeah, but I've spent every weekend with your family for the last 3 years, and now I don't want to spend time with your family anymore. And the resentment comes up because the
Mhm.
expectations are different, and what one person thought is not what the other, because every time we go to a value or a whatever theme within a relationship, we both come with different filters about how that actually shows up. To say I want
Mhm.
to be a present parent in my
Yeah,
kid's life, well, what exactly does that mean? How
Yeah.
exactly are we going to look after each other in that phase of our lives? Or whatever it is, like, I'm going to be supportive of your career. Okay, well, what if I'm earning double the money? How do you feel about that? What happens if one of us gets a job offer in a different country? Is the other one
Mhm.
in a worse position financially, or because of their career? But do we choose to follow someone else's dream? Is that something we're open to? And I think that not being afraid of the depth of those conversations is probably the most powerful thing you can do, like getting into a relationship. It's kind of scary, but I mean, who the fuck cares? You've only got
Yeah.
one life, like, filter people out sooner rather than later, and learn
Yeah.
something along the way. Learn something about yourself.
yeah, yeah. Kim, you said that it's really important to be with a person who help you to grow in some way. And I wonder, like, how you actually can craft this conversation about this topic with your partner to understand that this person helps you to grow in like
Mm,
professionally, emotionally, or as in any other way.
yeah,
And if you help also this person to grow.
yeah. I think that ultimately if the feeling between two people is of genuine love and I want the best for you, that you also ask sort of in the back of your mind, if I think for myself now, that I would like a new partner at some point in whenever it's going to happen. But going to your passion, going to your partner with compassion, and having those often, let's say weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever it is that suits you, conversations. I think being able to have that honesty, the other person not jumping in and reacting because they feel emotional about it, but always giving space for, I'm just going to tell my side of the story about how I'm feeling right now, and then you're going to tell me later how you feel about things, to give that space and just to honor what the other person has to say by listening. Because what I've learned is, and this is very true, I've heard Esther Perel mention this on a podcast recently as well, but the quality of what someone tells you has more to do with the quality of your listening. And so if someone feels that they are really being listened to, then they will open up even more. And so I think that's almost the greatest gift you can give as a partner, is to hold space for your partner.
Yeah.
And so when they are in a difficult position, or they're having an overwhelmed moment about, I don't know, a job situation or whatever, that they are holding space for that, and not like, oh God, I knew you would be like that. Oh, it's no wonder because blah, blah, blah. That's really the most destructive thing. But if you approach your partner in that moment with love and compassion, go, I see you're overwhelmed. What can I do for you? Then that's probably the kindest thing that you can do for them. And if that's the level and like quality of conversation and trust that you can build, then 20 years down the line, when, I don't know, your sex life isn't as good as it used to be, or one of your kids gets sick, or whatever it is, like weird shit happens in life, right? When that stuff happens, then hopefully you've built so much trust and love and honesty for that person that you can say, I feel like our sex life is totally shit, and maybe we both do some window shopping, but that doesn't mean I don't love you. It just means, I don't know, I'm a different person to who I was 20 years ago. Because often it's not often what one person needs has nothing to do with what the other person has to offer or not. It's
Mm-hmm.
simply about your need.
Yeah.
So my need in this moment is to, I don't know, explore other versions of my sexuality 20 years down the line when I'm 50 or 60 or something. And it doesn't mean that you're not fulfilling me. I'm just expressing my need to you. And it doesn't mean I love you any less. It's just acknowledging that one person might not be the person who is able to fulfill absolutely every need that you have in your life. And that has little to do with them, but more to do with you.
Right now I'm just imagining trying to have this deep conversations with Germans on the first date. I'm like,
Oh my God. Just start it
oh
on the
yeah.
text.
I mean, I'm still not giving up. Like, even though I don't really care, like, if I would want to go on a date with German or not German. But
Yeah.
as long as I'm
Yeah.
here, living already for more than 10 years, 2 years, not 10 years. So I'm like, given given a chance to date
Yeah.
Germans and not to talk about where to go for a walk, about sports and like climbing and some traveling, dreams and so on. So it's like it will be a challenge.
Yeah. Well, I think what I've noticed over the last year or so with this is that a lot of people are not very good at asking questions. And it's,
Yeah.
Yeah,
like, yes, now you are specifically asking me questions, and, I'm almost wanting to ask stuff back to you because you have such a different perspective as well, because of where you live, your ages, all sorts of things. But we are here because we are interested in growth too, right? And I feel that this is a genuine connection and energy between us, and this is essentially what you want when you go on a date, right? You don't want to chit chat about nonsense with anything. And when you ask a question, or you get asked a question from a guy when you're dating, then you ask something back, and vice versa. And it's a game of ping pong. You want to play tennis with a partner, you don't want to play tennis to a brick wall, right? And so I think that's
Yeah.
yeah,
really the art of curiosity, needs to be alive, which for me has been missing a lot, even in the you know texting before you meet.
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Not everyone as curious as we are here, for
Yeah,
example.
Yeah.
a lot of people just enjoy
There are
talking about themselves and just talk.
Kim.
Yes.
Talking about your work, I want to ask you what is the most common problems that your clients usually ask you for help?
In the realm of coaching in general, or within
Yeah,
this
yeah.
holistic aspect. I think that many people have come also to a stage in their lives where they realize that there's probably multiple fires in the house, so to speak, and they're not quite sure which one is the worst. And they can't put
Mm.
out all the fires at the same time, but they need to start figuring out, because otherwise the house, which is them in that moment, is just gonna burn out, basically. And so it's often a mixture of stuff that has kind of culminated. But where Maria and I met when I did the talk at the BBA community some weeks ago, I said that I found myself in midlife on a Flixbus, with more and more stuff being added, thinking I was on the way to somewhere, and more
Mhm.
people coming into it. But I wasn't in the driving seat of my life. And I think that's where people want to get back to most of the time, is getting firmly back into the driving seat of their car, and making those considered decisions about, is it a new job I need to find? Is that what's making me unhappy or not fulfilling me anymore? Or is it my relationship? Or is it even the city that we're living in? It's not
Mhm.
for me anymore. I've done my stint in the city. Now I need a garden, or if I don't need a house and garden, I need a weekend garden, or whatever it is. How can I make that possible? So people are in a process of realizing that they need change to happen, and they're not quite sure where to start. And that's where most people are at.
Mhm. Kim, and many people nowadays always rush somewhere, run, cannot allow themselves just to slow down, limit their communication with other people, even friends or family members, and spend more time alone. Why is it like so difficult for people just to listen to themselves nowadays?
Do you two find it easy to be alone?
No, it's a good question because not several, like 2 weeks ago, I realized that I was developing social anxiety and I was
Yeah.
developing just extreme stress, even from meeting with my friends. And
Mm-hmm.
my past desire to meet with my friends turned to be I have to meet with my friends. I need to go somewhere. I need to do that. So that was bringing me there. zero pleasure. It was bringing me anxiety. And
Mm-hmm.
on that evening, it was Saturday, I canceled all the meetings for the next week and the
Mm.
next weeks as well, almost everything. And I got an extreme ease and freedom inside me. Like my anxiety started to decrease, and I
Mm.
started to do all the things I was postponing when I just was meeting with other people.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Well, I think that in general, we feel like there's so many things that we have to do, but we don't. And I know that, I mean, for me, I didn't have the easiest time getting into meditation and stuff like this because I was also someone with a lot going on in my head all the time. And to be honest with you, the first year that I was co-parenting with my children and they were gone for a week, I was scratching the walls being by myself. It was horrible, because I haven't been 100% by myself with nothing to do for a long time. And I did all the things that you should probably not do. I drank too much wine. I watched Netflix. I was on dating apps. I was texting with friends. I was doing all the things. But, all of these things had served their purpose at some point to cover up some sort of emotion. And as I started to feel more and understand myself more, then I realized that, yeah, like there's more of me to be figured out. And that's kind of fun to figure that out. Like it's not so scary to dive into sadness or grief or anger or like what is a practice that I can do just to understand that. Like it doesn't need to be meditation, and all of this is, be it meditation or yoga or journaling, it is all a practice. None of it needs to be perfect or look like it does on Instagram or whatever, because the very best version of ourselves is often when we are taking the time to work on ourselves in our pajamas and doing some stretches just because it feels good. And I think that's a little bit that misconception that social media has created, is that this person says this is my morning routine and this is what you should do and this is a good morning routine and this is a good
Mhm.
morning routine, instead of you asking yourself, what do I think will make me feel good? Like how can I set myself up for a good day? What needs to happen?
Yeah.
How do I set myself up for a good life? And I cannot plan and be I cannot be the best mum if I'm like just rushing around. I know that my kids in the morning when I have them, they put me in a certain headspace. And so I need certain things after that. And it doesn't need to be the same thing every day, but I like doing my morning walks around the lake and going for my cold plunges. I've started going to the gym again, and I love that because then I've already got it out of the way and I haven't made an excuse all day long whilst, I'll go this evening, and then I never go and feel bad about it because I didn't prioritize myself, or I just, or I didn't sleep enough last night. So do you know what? Sod it. I'm going to go home today and have a cup of coffee with a podcast, or I'm going to walk and, take my coffee and a podcast, and that's it. But I need an hour to myself after I've dropped my kids off before I'm ready
Mhm.
to be 100% present for my clients. And now, I mean, I honestly cannot get enough of my own company. I'm like, I've
Yes.
canceled. I'm not seeing anyone. I'm having such a great time by myself because I'm creating something even more. It's another layer of like the blossom already, the flower already like opened up a bit, and I'm like, oh, like there's even more to come. Like it can be even bigger and better. So I'm just
Uh,
having fun, like clearing my home or something.
Kim, I have one song like for a long time already in my mind. So
Yeah,
I have so much fun spending time with myself. And I think that I want to meet a person, like future partner, with whom it will be the same fun or even better. Because why do I need to have less fun in my life with that?
exactly.
Yes.
I'm 100% the same. Like my life is brilliant as it is, you know? There is really no stress in my life anymore, or very little. And if anyone comes into it, they need to make my life better. Like I'm not bringing people into my life, so I'm questioning myself, not feeling great about myself, um, thinking I should be thinner, bigger, slimmer, do this, do that. But at the same time, going back to your question about dating, when because I know what kind of man it is I want, I'm questioning who do I need to be the right fit for that kind of man as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
Because, you know, I realize that most men aren't, or no, not most men, most people aren't as conscious maybe as I am, aren't willing to put as much work in on themselves as I am. And so if I want that kind of man, then I need to do my part, as well.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah. But yeah, enjoy your life, Maria.
Thank you.
Yeah. Enjoy your alone time. And
Yeah.
exactly, like
Yeah.
someone can come into your life when they make it better.
True.
And
True.
these serendipitous real life meetings, like that is really a part that the online dating just doesn't give us, because we can often literally tell within 60 seconds, we can tell within 10 seconds, is the energy of this person the right kind of person for me?
Hmm. You mean
If
from
we're
the
really
picture?
honest, we probably know. No, when we meet them in person.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
From the pictures, not possible to say.
Because it's sometimes it's like the smell, or the way they hold themselves, or the body is
Mhm.
like somehow different, and it says something different about them in real life. And like for me, when I meet someone, I also find that how they treat other people is something that's really important to me. Like being kind when you don't need to be kind, that's something that's super
Mhm.
important to me. So just kind of knowing these little things, and other people can become co-podcast host or friends or
Yeah,
whatever instead of
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really like the idea, of taking yourself on dates or for a walk. I remember I discovered this art of being alone when I was doing this my first solo
uh-huh.
trip around Europe, and I really started to appreciate this time being alone, like this just beautiful moment of going to some restaurant by your own, just enjoying the food, observing how people like behave around you. You start to be more conscious about what's happening around you because you pay attention to everything, but not to the person you are standing in front of and talking to.
Mm,
Right? You have in front of you.
yeah. Yeah, and there's so much to be learned from those experiences, because you're often then somewhere where you maybe don't speak the language. And
Yeah.
like that is understanding the human language. That is understanding, like, is this person's body language? What does it say to me? Is this a happy person? Is this a sad person? There's so much to observe and read between the lines, which is beautiful about being out by yourself as well.
Yeah. Exactly. Uh, Kim, are there any practices that you tried on yourself and you regret?
I don't know. I'm laughing so much. Ah. Oh, there was that.
Hysterical.
There was that. Oh, the oversized dildo that I bought when I was in Hamburg. No. Um, I never bought it, but I did take a photo of one which was literally that big next to my head, and it was kind of hysterical.
I came like from nowhere.
Somewhere in the reeperbahn, I had to go in and like,
Of
I
course.
did that wasn't on that trip with my daughter, by the way.
Ah,
That was another one.
oh, okay, okay. But like I
Right.
take my friends. Dmitry, when you come next time to Hamburg, I will take you on excursion to the best sex shops on the Reeperbahn.
Okay, I'm excited.
um, but back to practices. I don't think I've regretted any of them because I really learned something about myself in everything that I tried, from pottery to dance to yoga meditation retreat to journaling to cold plunging to walking to getting a massage to coaching therapy. I don't think there's anything that I regret. I'm not really a person of regrets anyway.
Okay.
Just a lot of learnings.
Yeah.
And you mentioned one time that you are practicing a transformative dance. What's
Mm-hmm.
that and how to take part in that?
So transformative dance is maybe not too far away if you know what ecstatic dance is, but it's a free style of dance.
Mm-hmm.
But it gives you, or at least the one that I did, it was 2 hours that we always met once a week, and we would do our own dancing, but we also
Mm-hmm.
did dancing with a partner and with prompts. And so each of these practices were to lead with the body. It was all
Mm-hmm.
about getting out of the head and into the body. And the more you
Mm-hmm.
move your body, the more you get out of your head. When the body moves, no, hang on. When the body moves, no. Anyway, I can't remember the quote.
Okay.
It's something about the brain. When the body moves, the brain grooves. Yes, maybe that's it. Like when your
Mhm.
body's moving, you can think more clearly because you're
Sure.
literally processing what's going on inside you. And
Yeah.
so, um, and so doing this was amazing because for me, like I mentioned previously, meditation hasn't always been so easy because of that discomfort of I'm all by myself in my brain and I don't know what to do with myself. Whereas when you're moving your body just to the music, like completely stone cold sober with 10 other people who you see every week, then it allows you to tap into a different consciousness of yourself. And so the person who facilitated it always had an awesome playlist. I'm happy to share who she is as well. She's based here in Berlin, Nora.
Mhm.
And it's like she was like really going for it, and everyone's like jumping around like partying like I've
It's
never
like a
partied
therapy.
before almost. Yeah,
Wow.
and it's completely freeing, and it's really interesting to see that every person almost, like I always try to explore a different movement that would also maybe not be
Mhm.
my natural movement, but to get an
Mhm.
impulse that like your hand should be leading, and so your hand
Mhm.
is like moving around and taking the lead, or your shoulder is doing it. And then when you did the
Mhm.
partner work, and that was one of my biggest realizations doing this work, is that I didn't think that in a partnership, or because I did this post my 14-year relationship, which in the last years wasn't great, and I hadn't felt particularly supported, um, be it true or not, but that was my reality. And so in this moment we had to dance with our eyes closed and move around and
Mhm.
walk around and do stuff. And because there was 10 of us in a room, obviously within four walls, we didn't want to bump into each other, we didn't want to hit the wall and all this stuff. And then the prompt after that was for half of the people to lead the other people, but not lead them as in like fully dancing or something, but just like
Yeah.
just a little light touch on the shoulder, and then a little, just like you can move faster now or slow down or bigger. And all of a sudden I realized in that moment, like, wow, this person's got my back. This person wants 100% the best for me. They don't want me to walk into a wall. They don't want me to trip or slip over. They have got me. And actually having support from someone when my eyes are closed and I cannot see the path, they can create a version of me which is bigger and fuller in my expression, which wasn't possible alone. And so like that was
Mm-hmm.
really one of the most powerful things that I took from it, because it was all about touch and dance and somatic led um,
Yeah, and
movements and
letting your
understanding
body
about
to
yourself.
explore. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's beautiful.
And that's anyone can do at home, like make just like a really amazing, I don't know, 20-minute playlist, like which starts off slow and you just stretch and enjoy like feeling your body, and by the end of it you're like, woo, this is my favorite
Uh,
tune.
I call it witch dancing.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, listening to Florence and the Machine, like
Oh
any the
yes.
playlist, and just dance. That's crazy.
Oh
It's a
my god,
crazy
got some
woman.
amazing music.
Yeah, you're in my team of the fans. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
Yeah. Kim, a question about life coaching.
Yes.
Life coaching is getting more and more known. I wonder, how do you see the future of life coaching, how it's changing, and how to actually succeed as a life coach?
I I also see that it's a career path more and more people are taking, and just as with anything in life, just because there already are a million chairs on the planet does not mean that we don't need chairs. We need more maybe considered chairs. We need well designed chairs, but the world will still need chairs. And so I think it's the same with every profession. Just because there are a ton of accountants does not mean you don't need new accountants, because I'm going to resonate with your energy perhaps, but I'm not
Hmm.
going to resonate with someone else's energy, and vice versa. And I think that's something that's really important when picking a person that you want to work with, is that you feel their energy is supportive of you. It is a place where you feel that you have a lot of trust and safety, because if you go to a coach and you cannot be yourself and you feel guilty because you should have done something and you set a goal for the week and you didn't do it, but then you're like, oh god, I didn't do those things, and now I feel like I have to lie about it because otherwise like I'm not reaching my goals. Well, then it's not a good coach and client relationship, because that person isn't able to be honest and go, do you know what, life just got in the way this week and that was my goal but I just didn't achieve it. And it's like, well, it's okay, was it a procrastination thing, was it a mindset thing, or were you just really busy? How can we get through this? Uh
Hmm.
and I think that's part of what's really important. And the reason I
Yeah.
chose who I worked with was because I felt like I needed that cheerleader energy behind me, someone who I really feel like has 100% got my back and wants really the best for me, and I can show up and I can be honest and I can tell them about something that's I'm not making progress on, because it's exactly that I need to work on in that moment. And different people will find their different facets of what it is that they want to work with, and those are unique to their skills as well. So one person is going to be, you know, the mindset person, and the next person is going to be the person for expats, or there's a unique situation or a unique life experience that's going to speak
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
to someone, or, you know, multiple things. um and I feel like you have to do that genuine thing with me. You know, I've questioned, what the hell am I doing with this multifaceted approach, and do I have the right name for it? But at the end of the day, this is like the alignment of yourself and living intentionally is everything that I do, and I'm living and breathing it all myself. And
Mm.
I I don't walk the walk and not talk the, or I walk the walk and talk the talk, you know. So everything that I share as well is because of my own experience,
It's you,
because
yeah.
of, you know,
You,
making myself healthier, being honest about, yeah, I gained, you know, 10 kilos off whilst I was in the depths of not feeling good at the end of my relationship.
Yeah.
mhm.
But actually, and I know, you know, you've gained 10 kilos, as I saw a post of yours, Maria, which is a positive thing for you, because
Yeah,
you feel better and
yeah,
you're working on your health. And actually, a lot of people who, you know, the version of me before, who was slim, you know, or looked perfectly good as I was, that version of me thought I needed to lose 2 kilos and wasn't happy with herself and wasn't in a happy place in her life internally, really. And this version of myself is fuller figured and happy and looking after myself, and I'm still eating all the same things. And now I've got my energy back. Now I can work on potentially losing those. But actually, my main goal is to look after myself, you know, feel well within myself. And that's the most important thing. So there's even positives, because I love myself more in this body than I did in the body that I have. But it's still not maybe the body I always want to have, because I think there's still a fitter, even healthier version of myself, which I'm working on. But
yes. It resonates so much with what you are sharing right now. For like, I could in the past, I could have better physique, better body, like more muscles. But did I love myself? No, I was doing everything to be loved by somebody, to be approved,
hmm,
to get men's attention. I was going to the gym with one of the purposes, not to work out. One of the purposes was to get attention that I was lacking inside. I was devastated. I was desperate for men's attention. And I was
yeah,
working a lot on that problem issue with my psychotherapist. And it turned out like it went to the point where right now I'm just canceling everything just to stay alone. like I'm, yeah, I'm just so proud of that fact that I actually healed that part. Maybe not
yeah, that's
100%, but
awesome.
literally, yeah.
Yeah, but I
Yeah, definitely.
but I think that's part of, you know, we often see ourselves as we need to, just because we are human and humans need connection, it doesn't mean you don't also need connection with yourself. And in a
Mm-hmm.
phase like this, when you're in this transformation as well, you want to see yourself bloom again, and you're in this, you know, more wintry autumnal period of your life where you become more recluse and more introverted and stuff. But what happens in that time is that you're still growing. But if you imagine yourself as a tree, you know, you're pruning up here, which is your outward side, which everyone sees. But in the meantime, your roots are going further deeper into the ground. You are still growing,
Yes.
and the roots are
Mm.
finding a more solid foundation, because this is who
Mm-hmm.
you are. Like, this is the foundation of you, so that your outward self can feel better and know that once you've pruned the stuff which is, you know, not so important, then you can flourish and be an even bigger, more expressive version of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because you have such strong roots as well.
So one time
Yeah.
ago, my psychotherapist made exactly the same analog like idea compared myself as a tree that like I didn't have any stable roots to rely on myself. That's why I was depending on so much on other people. I was literally going to the right, going to the left just to feel some support. And what you're describing,
Yeah.
that's exactly how it feels.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think when those moments come along and you're not firmly rooted within who you are, that storm comes and that bad weather, which is, life shit that you get thrown, that you really get thrown, like the tree falls then, and then you're really,
Mhm.
out. Whereas if
Yeah,
you are firmly rooted in yourself, then something can, it can take you like a minute, it can stress you out for a minute, it can sweep all your leaves away, but at the end of the
Yeah.
day, you're still firmly rooted in who you are and your values and what's important to you, and have done all those little things that you doing, and the culmination of lots of little things is always going to be the substance and the fullness of what you create. It's never, I went to the gym once for 2 hours once a month. No, it's I did 10 minutes every single day. That is what will
yeah,
make the difference.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Kim, I have the last question. Where to find
Yeah,
you?
tell me where
Where
to
to
find
find
me.
you?
You
Yeah,
you can find me at kimklelund.com, which is my name, and you can find me at Kim_talks_ on Instagram, and I have a second Instagram which is House of Lund,
yeah,
and also on LinkedIn. So
yeah,
mostly all the usual places.
yeah. We will add the links below
Mm,
in our
thank
description.
you.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
Definitely,
much,
yeah.
Kim.
Thank you a lot for this conversation.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for having me.
If you enjoyed this episode and want to stay updated with our future content and support what we are doing, don't forget to give it a thumb up, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss our latest episode.